This is a YouTube video where any comment that is valid CSS will be added to this portfolio site. I don't know if this is a very good or a very bad idea, but I'm sure nothing bad will happen because people on the internet are nice. Any valid CSS that will be added to the site will be listed out together with the author. Unless someone, of course, destroys that section with some bad CSS. But then I trust that someone will fix it right back. So if you know CSS, then write a comment and also like the video on your way down. But if you want to know how this was achieved, then stick around and I will show you everything. Alright, so let's see how this actually works. So we need to look for new comments at an interval, and the way I achieve this is using a GitHub action that uses schedule and a cron syntax here, meaning every minute. So every minute we do this job, which is an HTTP GET. So we do that towards an API endpoint at Vercel called update. And we have a secret in the header so that only I can call this endpoint. So let's jump into that endpoint and see what that does. Alright, so we are now at the update NextJs endpoint. We specify a video ID and we use the YouTube API to fetch all the comments. Of course, we check the secret header, and then what we do is that we get the data and we filter out the comments that actually have all the data that we need. And then we just store ID, the actual comment that we call CSS here. We don't know yet if it is actually valid CSS. And we store the author. All these styles that we create, I need to store them somewhere. So for that, I'm using a Prisma database. Let's have a quick look into the data schema. It's super simple. So we have one model, which is a style that has an ID, CSS string, and author. And created that could be good for sorting if we ever need to do that. So here we fetch all the styles, and then we need to figure out what styles are already there and what are new. So we can use this ID that YouTube has, and we use that same idea in our database, so we can filter out CSS styles that we already created based on that ID. Then we also need to filter for the comments that are actually valid CSS. So here we're using a library called CSS. So we can do CSS parse of the actual string, and then we see if we get the result. And if we get parsing errors, we say that this is not good CSS, or if I do a try catch here. So if this would throw an error, we also say, okay, it's false. And for the rest of them, that is valid CSS that we have not yet created in our database. So then we just do a Prisma create many. We create all the comments and then respond with okay. So now let's look at the client side. How are we fetching these? And before we do that, I want to show an endpoint that the frontend is using called styles. So here we have styles. So we dig out all the styles from the database, and then we map them into this template literal. So we add a comment that says by author, and then we add the CSS. And then we just join them all together and to form a style sheet. We set the header that this is text CSS, and then we send that. So let's see what we need to do on the client side for this style sheet to be added. So what we do is that we get some server-side props where we call this API styles endpoint and consume it as text. And then we pass that to the page as the prop of style sheet. So once we get the style sheet here as a string, we can just throw it into the DOM like this. And also we want to add it to the DOM without it being parsed as a style sheet, just so that you can view that your CSS comment is actually there. Because it might not always be obvious, because there is this issue of specificity. and that you could write valid CSS, but someone has more specific CSS that overrides what you're trying to do. So it's good that you can see that your comment is actually there, and you can see it with the author attribution that we just saw. So let's see what this site looks like. So here we can see some CSS that I tested out. The body color is hot pink, but then we get color green after that. So since that's later, it overrides. We have two backgrounds which are both dark gray, almost black. So that's it. I'm looking forward to getting some new fresh CSS up in this list. I'm also a bit scared about what will happen once this goes live, so I'll have to keep track of this site to make sure no one does something terrible. But hope you found this project interesting. Let's go live with this and see what happens. Maybe I'll have to do a follow-up video to see the iterations of this page and see if something interesting happens with this. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.